Among the tales of sorrow and of ruin that come down to us from the darkness of those days, there are yet some in which amid weeping there is joy, and under the shadow of death, light that endures. Amazon's new TV series set in Tolkien's Middle-earth is in production. There hasn't been an abundance of details regarding the setting of the series, other than the fact that it will take place in the Second Age. The Third Age has been deemed off-limits, which is when The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings storylines take place. However, many fans are hoping that some of the elements of the First Age will be featured in this series as well. One of the most famous accounts from the First Age that many Tolkien fans are hoping to see is the story of the mortal man Beren and the elf maiden Luthien, as is told in the Silmarillion. This epic tale of love, friendship, loss, and sorrow has a deep impact on the free people of Middle-earth and on the events that follow in the Second Age. In this video, I'd like to take a look into this beautiful story and how together these two characters change the course of the future. Beren, son of Barahir, is the human man of the royal house of Beor, which was the first house of men established in Middle-earth. He is renowned for his fighting prowess and great accomplishments in battle, to the extent that he is considered the greatest hero of the First Age. His house, however, was decimated by the Dark Lord Morgoth when his orc forces invaded their land. Beren was the last survivor in a group of men who lived as outlaws and who continued to fight in resistance against Morgoth, who at that point had conquered much of Middle-earth. Alone, wandering the wilds and on the run from Morgoth's powerful lieutenant Sauron, Beren fled into the guarded elvish kingdom of Doriath. There he met the elf princess Lúthien, the most beautiful being of all elves and men. With sparkling gray eyes, hair dark as night, her presence and singing voice can melt the cold winter into spring. To quote from Tolkien's words, "The song of Lúthien released the bonds of winter, and the frozen waters spoke, and the flowers sprang from the cold earth where her feet had passed." Beren had been wandering the wilds alone for years, having only the companionship of animals, while being hunted relentlessly by Sauron's werewolves and fell beasts. He had suffered much while on the run, but when he saw Lúthien dancing in the woods of Doriath, all memories of his prior pain and torment melted away. They fell in love, though their love would also be their doom. Lúthien was the daughter of the elf king Thingol and Queen Melian, who was actually a powerful being known as Amaya. Beren and Lúthien's union would never be approved by Lúthien's father. Thingol loved his daughter more than anything else. No prince of the elves would be worthy of her hand, let alone a mere mortal man. So he sets before Beren a seemingly impossible task in order to win his daughter's hand. He sends Beren on a quest to retrieve one of the Silmarils, which are the greatest jewels ever crafted. These 3 gems glow with the captured light of the 2 great trees that once illuminated Valinor. The Silmarils were coveted and stolen by the Dark Lord Morgoth, who had these jewels set in his iron crown. It is apparent in giving Beren this task that Thingol is effectively giving him a death sentence. And those that heard these words perceived that Thingol would save his oath and yet send Beren to his death, for they knew that not all the power of the Noldor, before the siege was broken, had availed even to see from afar the shining Silmarils of Feanor, for they were set in the Iron Crown and treasured in Angband above all wealth, and balrogs were about them, and countless swords, and strong bars, and unassailable walls, and the dark majesty of Morgoth. Beren accepts and sets off on this quest, enlisting the aid of the elf king of Nargothrond, Finrod Felagund. Finrod is a noble elf and a friend of men, in particular to Beren's father Barahir, who had saved Finrod's life in battle. Finrod gifted Barahir with his ring, pledging that he would come to his aid or that of his kin whenever in need. Beren now holds this ring, and Finrod vows to fulfill his oath. A few brave and loyal elves joined their king on this long and perilous journey for the Silmaril. Their band ends up being captured by Sauron, and one by one his elven companions meet death. Finrod ends up giving his life for Beren, thus redeeming his oath, leaving Beren alone as the last alive of those captured. As these events transpire, Lúthien feels the great weight of dread in her heart, and upon learning of Beren's dire situation, she resolves to come to his aid. Using her enchantments, she escapes the woods of Doriath, and on the way to rescue Beren, she makes a friend, Húan, the great wolfhound of Valinor. Together they liberate Beren from Sauron's clutches. Even after all this, Beren had not forgotten his oath to Lúthien's father, and when they were close to the borders of Doriath, he resolved for her to stay while he set off once more to attain a Silmaril. However, she had her own determination, and was not willing to be parted from him again. "You must choose, Beren, between these two, to relinquish the quest and your oath, and seek a life of wandering upon the face of the earth, or to hold to your word and challenge the power of darkness upon his throne. But on either road I shall go with you, and our doom shall be alike." They continued on this quest together, and performed the greatest deed ever attempted by that of elves and men. Lúthien disguised herself as a bat-like creature, and Beren as a werewolf. Through her enchantments they passed through the gate of Angband, and came into Morgoth's court. Lúthien distracted Morgoth by singing a magical song, making his crown become a great weight upon his head, and causing him to fall to the ground, asleep. Beren then cut a Silmaril from the Dark Lord's crown. Though in his attempt to acquire a second gem, a shard of his blade snapped off and struck Morgoth in the cheek, triggering his awakening along with the rest of Angband. Lúthien had completely expended herself in her efforts, and they fled, but were immediately confronted by the mightiest wolf that would ever walk the world, Carcharoth, who was bred by Morgoth himself. Beren, with the holy jewel in hand, thought its radiance would be enough to cause the beast to flee, but instead, the wolf bit off his hand at the wrist and swallowed it along with the Silmaril. The resulting burning anguish of the gem inside the wolf did cause him to flee, but ended up making him an even more powerful and destructive force. At this point, all hope seemed lost for Beren and Lúthien, but then the mighty eagles of Manwë came to their rescue, allowing them to return to her father. Thingol softened toward Beren as he related what all they had gone through. All in his court were amazed, and Thingol realized that Beren was unlike all other mortal men, and agreed that his oath was fulfilled, and allowed Lúthien and Beren to marry. This was the first ever union between man and elf, though their happiness was cut short. Carcharoth, the wolf of Angband, was on his way to Doriath, leaving a path of death and destruction in his wake. Beren and the great hound Húan were among the hunting party that was sent out to put an end to the beast. Húan succeeded in taking Carcharoth down, though in the process he and Beren were mortally wounded. The gem was then liberated from the belly of the beast, meaning Beren had now paid his vow in full. Húan said goodbye to his friend Beren, and they parted ways, as they both succumbed to their injuries and died. This caused Lúthien so much grief that she too passed away, but even still, this was not the end for these two lovers. The fates of men and elves are different after death. This means that again, Beren and Lúthien would be separated. In the halls of Mandos, where souls go to await their different fates, Lúthien made an appeal to the Vala Mandos himself and sang a song. The song of Lúthien before Mandos was the song most fair that ever in words was woven, and the song most sorrowful that ever the world shall hear. Unchanged, imperishable, it is sung still in Valinor beyond the hearing of the world, and listening, the Valar are grieved, for Lúthien wove two themes of words, of the sorrow of the Eldar and the grief of men, of the two kindreds that were made by Ilúvatar to dwell in Arda, the kingdom of earth, amid the innumerable stars. And as she knelt before him, her tears fell upon his feet like rain upon stones, and Mandos was moved to pity, who never before was so moved, nor has been since. She persuaded Mandos to make an exception for her and Beren, so they could once again live, and at death be able to share the same fate, never to be parted again. Beren and Lúthien returned to the northern lands of Middle-earth, and dwelt together happily as man and woman. They produced the first son of men and elves. Their bloodline would go on to produce those of the Númenórean nobility and the Dúnedain. Men were then regarded with greater respect among the elves. The legacy of Beren and Lúthien was long remembered in songs and tales. And the enemy Morgoth was no longer seen as invincible as a result of their deeds. Though it would be a long road still to conquer this great evil, Beren and Lúthien's journey together is where it all started. Tolkien regarded this story as the heart of the legendarium. It is also mirrored in the tale of Aragorn and Arwen, and was very close to the heart of its author, as it also reflected the courtship of Tolkien and his wife Edith. The names of Beren and Lúthien are even marked on their gravestones. Edith was his Lúthien. Considering how much this story means to the Tolkiens, and the fact that these events take place in the First Age, I tend to think it won't be fully adapted in this new series. But seeing how much this tale impacts the course of events and the characters that follow in their bloodline, they may very well be referenced to by others, or perhaps seen in flashbacks, or depicted as part of a narrator's description of events in the First Age. This epic story serves as one of Tolkien's greatest tales of adventure, romance, and self-sacrifice in the face of evil, and in many ways provides a foundation in the history of Middle-earth upon which the heroes of future generations can build. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more Lord of the Rings and other sci-fi and fantasy content. Also, let me know your thoughts on the tale of Beren and Lúthien. Would you like to see the story adapted or referenced in the new series? Or are there perhaps other stories of Middle-earth that you'd like to see told? Let me know in the comments section below. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.